some other strange things that happen. It's also quite possible to pick up another weapon along the way during that first escape sequence. I've seen some runners get the bombs, and as many people who've played this game know, the bombs are a very stressful opening weapon, only to find the hammer or the sword in the very next chest. And we are about to get started as our uncle is now leaving Link's house, going to go find the windfish, and we'll get a look at what's inside Link's house. It is the flippers.
Wow, so no fake flippering this game. That's a really interesting thing to find early on when the typical route takes you to the southern part of Light Hyrule and some of the items down there.
Absolutely, and you're also going to be able to change some of the early routing options. Zora suddenly becomes a very interesting potential place because it will be within logic. Keeping in mind that most runners are probably going to want to wait until they have that Zora money. The uncle provides us with the hammer, so both of our runners have a very powerful weapon. That's like tempered sword damage. They're going to be making use of that as they go through and find a bee in a bottle as well. So Suit Kid now is on the table when they get to Kakariko Village.
And of course, that hammer, besides being a powerful weapon, it's a great find early on because that's one of the 3 items that you need in order to have access to the Dark World. We also have a map check on hagspam's side. It looks like it was 2 in Eastern Palace, 3 in Tower of Hera, and I believe it was Crystal 6 down in the desert. So all crystals in the Light World this time.
Yeah, as a runner, I think you really enjoy it when you see all 3 of the Light World dungeons are crystals. They're generally shorter dungeons, easy to complete very quickly, as long as you have the correct items in order to unlock them. So we'll see if they manage to find those early on, or if it will be one of those seeds where it's not until the very end that they can get into them.
And hagspam finding the Fisher's Price, my first shield in that first chest there. Not exactly useful, but it can lead to better things for sure.
Yes, and now most people making a run, since we've seen the hammer now, most runners are going to probably be able to finish this sequence, for those of you who are new to watching, in about 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes. That would be considered a good time, 6 minutes or under. The big factor that we're looking for right now is whether or not they're going to be able to find a bomb. The back of Escape, there are 3 chests in that area, and most runners are going to want to find a bomb before they leave. Otherwise, they'll have to find some time later on in the game to return and check those chests, and you never know when that's going to be. First of all, you'll have to find the Power Glove at least, and it doesn't naturally route with a lot, except in a lot of very specific situations.
Absolutely. Those who are watching tonight can also notice a couple other unique things with Randomizer right off the bat. The Randomizer allows you to choose what color you want your hearts to be, and there's also well over 100 sprites, and tonight looks like hagspam is using the Twilight Princess Zelda, whereas Chenzi Koden is opting for the Zero Suit Samus.
Yep, and hagspam's pulled ahead a little bit here on the way out of Escape. He's got Zelda in tow, so Zelda's following Zelda. And Chenzi managed to take out that ball and chain guard with the pots instead of using the hammer. Saves a little bit of health. Just a little bit slower.
And speaking of health, I believe they've found 2 pieces of heart so far during this escape sequence, so just 2 more needed in order to get another heart container. Also, in addition to looking for bombs, these 2 runners are going to be kind of keeping their eyes peeled for some rupees. Typically, you want to go into Kakariko Village with roughly 70, so you have enough for the bottle vendor.
Indeed, as well, you probably may be forced to purchase bombs as well, which could be a 50 rupee outlay. Unfortunately, neither of our runner has found a bomb yet in the first part of the escape sequence. And hagspam is now heading towards the back half of Escape, which, even though he does not have a lantern, the standard opening automatically gives the runners the light cone as long as they're in this portion of the game. They won't be getting it in any other dark rooms.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I think in some of the earlier versions, all of the Light World dungeons or Light World locations that were dark did give you that light cone, but that has been removed, and now it's only the escape sequence that gives that to you. Granted, you know, a lot of these runners are extremely skilled, and it's not unusual at all to find two runners that are perfectly capable of tackling those dark rooms.
It's interesting to note that hagspam has really been avoiding killing other enemies. Meanwhile, Chenzi Koden is taking out some of these snakes, or ropes as they're technically called, in order to try to find bombs. Neither has been successful yet, though, so it is a little bit of a time sink. So here we are in the back of escape area where there is the potential to bomb open those walls, but hagspam is just, you know what, I'm leaving. I'll come back here for this if I need it later. Just trying to get out of here, and as a result is going to exit the escape sequence in a phenomenal time of about 5 minutes and 50 seconds.
Yeah, it's a very interesting strategy. I don't think I've ever seen a player not even attempt to get bombs, so very interesting. And finding 20 rupees in the Sank chest, so finally getting a little bit of coinage.
Yeah, it is a little bit odd, but turns out it was the right move, as Chenzi Koden smashed a lot of monsters there, did not find any bombs. And we can see that that is turning out to be about a 25 to 30 second difference in time.
And hagspam foregoing the lumberjack cave, at least for now, heading right into the Lost Woods to check the two locations, the mushroom and the tree stump cave, I guess. I don't know what it's called.
I've been calling it the bandit's hideout. But turns out it's just a green rupee there in the mushroom spot. And down here in the hideaway hole, a full complete heart container. Now the difference looks like Chenzi Koden may be going to go heading up to give us that lumberjack house check. Now, it's really hit or miss whether or not a runner is going to do this. There are two schools of thought. If you if you check the lumberjack house and you see that it's a necessary item, it may give you a small leg up, knowing that you better go and take care of AGA 1. But the other school of thought is, if you've got the items to do AGA, you're going to know when you need to go there anyway. So it's a waste of time, in other words. But it does give us the hype. Unfortunately, in this case, it's just a 5-bomb upgrade, it looked like. So no big telltale breadcrumb to AGA yet.
Yeah, of course, Agdam still could be required depending on whether we find that Moon Pearl and a lift upgrade. And hagspam now heading into Blind's Hut. 5 unique items in Blind's Hut, as well as 5 in the well, which will probably be done next. Kakariko Village, a really good place to find some early items.
Now, he's going to be hoping here that he finds some bombs, because he does not yet have any. And bombs, having to come back to bomb this back wall is kind of an annoyance. There is still a chest back there that he's going to have to give up on and come back later.
Finding 300 rupees, so now he has plenty of rupees to buy the bombs that he's going to need. And it looks like he's heading down to that direction right now. Bottle Vendor only giving 5 arrow upgrades, so nothing too exciting right there.
Yeah, this has been a very low bomb seed, obviously, and it's really kind of throws your pathing through Kakariko Village into a lurch. You're typically able to at least get some bombs somewhere along the way.
And hagspam checking out the chicken house right now, as Chenzi Koden is going to have to do the same thing, not being able to get that back room. And Hag just finds another 20 rupees there.
Yes, but our runners did pick up the swag net and the magic powder in Blind's Hut, so they haven't come away empty-handed yet.
And they did get the bottle, so like you said earlier, they can check the sick kid. That's another nice location to not have to come back to. Anytime where you have an item location that you might have to come back to, that can be a very bad thing because it's easy to forget something like that if it's not part of your normal routing. And finding the Moon Pearl in that back room, so we now have 2 out of the 3 items needed for Dark World access.
Indeed, and Chenzi Kohen's patience pays off. He finds 3 bombs at the bottom of the well. That's going to be enough to clear out Kakariko in a little bit more normal order, and he'll be able to pick up bombs on the way out to replenish his stock. So that's actually kind of a nice find for him.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things about Randomizer is, you know, the choices that you make. There's no such thing as a really bad choice for the most part, but every little routing decision can potentially save or cost you mere seconds, and those things add up over the course of an 1.5 to 2 hour run, and can easily lead to one person winning, where just because of their decisions and the way they play.
Yes, I've often said that there are no good or bad choices. There are just right and wrong choices in Randomizer, and you never know what's going to be right and what's going to be wrong until you see what you get. So Sick Kid was packing up some TNT in his bed while he's been playing hooky from school. In exchange for a bottle, he passes those off.
Yeah, what is it with this land of Hyrule and kids having access to all these weapons? I mean, he has bombs this time. The last seed I played, he had a sword. I mean, this is a very dangerous place to live, apparently.
And it looks like hagspam's going to go ahead and make use of that magic powder he found. We're going to see what the Mad Batter will curse him with.
I think this is a really good choice. You know, finding magic powder that early, it definitely could be something important. And survey says just 20 rupees, so unfortunately, not so much this time.
Yeah, this the seed has been a little playing its cards close to its chest, it seems. Doesn't want to give our runners too much. The Moon Pearl is a nice find through Kakariko Village, but I would say you usually count on getting 1 or 2 key items in that early part to give you some direction as to where to go in later stages of the game. And that, unfortunately, has not been the case in this particular seed.
And just another big 20 on the library shelf. So yeah, I mean, like you said, Kakariko Village has been just really dry this time around. You know, at some point, they're going to have to open this up a little bit, and just a piece of heart in the Maze Race game. So it's time to save and quit. Probably head down to South Hyrule, where hopefully there's going to be some good items for them.
Yes, I would imagine that we'll see something of value either in one of these 3 locations. First, most of the time we are going to head over to the dam, check what's in the chest there and what's been soaking under the lake. And then, of course, the mini Moldorm Cave will be coming up, which has 5 potential items, and usually something of value there, or at least some kind of direction-giving item.
And with the early flippers, especially if they get enough money, we could definitely see not only a hobo check, but a check all the way up to Zora's Domain.
Yeah, that is going to result in potentially up to 5 item locations that they could take a look at. The one under the Hobo Bridge, 2 in the Waterfall of Wishing, the ledge of Zora's Domain, and then King Zora himself, all potentially having items.
And they'll also be able to get the intel of seeing what is on the Lake Island as well.
Yes, that will be beneficial for them. As soon as they find the mirror, they'll be able to go and pick that up as well. So when you're equipped with the hammers and bombs, and you're in Mini Moldorm Cave, it's interesting to see what people try. But one of my favorite techniques is to make use of this bee in a bottle, as it stings all of these Mini Moldorms and helps you clear this room really easily.
And it's Das Boot! This just went from a slow walk to a speed run. That's the only thing of value in Mini Moldorm Cave, but that's a really nice find to really speed up everything now.
Yeah, it's a significant item find because it will unlock several key one-off locations around the map. As well, we have an easier time transitioning from location to location, even especially when you don't yet have the flute or other mobility enhancing items. As you can see, we managed to get all the way up here to Ice Rod Cave really quickly when you have the boots. It's not even a question that it's worth the few seconds it takes compared to walking.
Absolutely, and finding another heart container, during this early game, especially when you don't have an armor upgrade, any heart that you can take is a good thing, I think.
Yes. Now, at this point, the kind of a dilemma that our runners are facing is they're sitting at around 300 and change rupees, and it is natural at this point to want to make the Zora call, and that's probably what both of our runners are going to do. However, it feels so much better when you have 500 rupees sitting in your pocket before you do this.
Absolutely. Zora's domain is one of those very out-of-the-way places. It's definitely one of those places you don't want to have to do twice.
Chenzi Koden's picked up his boots, and he's heading over towards the Ice Rod Cave as well. Alright, Old Man Under the Bridge is going to provide us with some kind of item. Looks like it's a 10-arrow upgrade.
So this seed is continuing its reputation of being off to a pretty dry start. No real progression beyond a couple, would-be nice items. The boots make things faster, and the magic powder is a great safety item. But nothing that really gives them a clear sense of where to go from here. And hagspam just finding a 5-bomb upgrade on the Lake Hylia Island.
Yep, he's going to enter this little whirlpool vortex to take him up to the Zora domain area, and we'll take a look at what's inside the Waterfall of Wishing in a few seconds.
And finding the blue mail and another heart container. Probably would have been nice to see rupees, but having an armor upgrade this early in the game is certainly nothing to cough at.
Yeah, now it would almost be aggravating to see 300 rupees here on the ledge, but instead it is the Cane of Samaria, so runners are going to be happy that they're going to have access to that.
Yeah, that's a really good find. We still don't know where all the Dark World dungeon requirements are, but that opens up the ability to beat Misery Mire and Intertor Rock, and also depending on how it's routed, can make Ice Palace a little bit easier as well.
Indeed, and until we know what dungeons are pendants and what are crystals, it's quite possible that all three of those are pendant dungeons at this time.
So hagspam, not having enough rupees, saves and quits, and it looks like he's heading over to Shish Kebab's hut and possibly Eastern Palace.
Yeah, we are fast running out of locations for our runners to go now. One of the things that is typical about Randomizer, and specifically in this standard tournament, as you acquire items that give you places to check, it just broadens the map and gives you a lot of potential to make choices that are not necessarily the ones that are logically correct. So in a situation like this, where there's so few places to go, you are expecting to find items that you need in the few locations you have left. There we see the Bombos medallion and another bottle with a bee in it. So again, the back of Saharshala's hut doesn't really give us any immediate indication as to where we should be running.
Absolutely. One of the other things in these runners' minds, though, is the fact that, because of the fact that they're missing a couple items, they know at least right now that they can't go to Agnim. So as they eliminate them, the chances of them finding where the Power Glove is better. Worth noting, neither one of these runners has gone back to check escape yet, and those 3 chests that they had to pass up because they didn't have any bombs.
Yes, and it is rather difficult to get into that area right now. They'd have to go all the way back through the castle. They can't get there through the graveyard. They don't have a power glove yet.
But within the logic, the power glove can be in that area, right?
Absolutely, yes. The logic assumes that you have bombs and rupees, and that does not include those ever in a reason why an item can't be in a place. And that is why those 3 chests are in the logic no matter what. They are Sphere 1 items.
And Chenzi Koden chats with Shish Kebab and finds out that Skull Woods is the green pendant this time around.
Yeah, so it might be. It could be that all of our progression is sitting in the back of Escape.
Yeah, I'd say, you know, Pegasus boots in this instance can actually be a bit of a bad thing, just because you have no swords, you can easily run right into an enemy.
Yeah, it can be. If you're not careful, it can be quite dangerous. Although we've achieved enough hearts and the blue mail, so a small hit here and there is not about to ruin anyone's day. So we just have 2 more checks available to us here in Eastern Palace on hagspam's screen. And after that, well, we found the ice rod, which, well, nice, doesn't really get us anywhere at this time.
And because it's really only useful in one area or one boss in the entire game, we don't yet know if it's actually going to be required or not.
That is true. And as I was about to say, the only real other check we have outside of those 3 chests in Escape, after this final chest that Hagspam is making his way to, is the Agina's Cave in the desert. So
I believe with the Pegasus boots, they can also check the Bonk Rocks.
Absolutely, you're correct. But that is still a very low number of potential checks. And so we're going to find something useful relatively soon.
Yeah, Hagspam heading to the vanilla Big Key chest is going to either find the map or the 3rd item in this dungeon. If this is a progression item, this is a sequence break. Turns out to just be the map, so the Armos Knights are going to have the final item in Eastern Palace.
Yeah, so I'm expecting now at this point that we if this is a true Agaseed, we're going to have to find either the cape and a sword, or we might find 2 swords, and the lantern as well will be necessary. So it's looking like it probably will not be, just from the number of items that they need to find. But you never know with Randomizer, it could definitely happen.
Yeah, they have Bonk Rocks, Agina's Cave, and then those 3 chests, which would require them to go, oh, and there's the Power Glove.
All right, and that gives us access to all of the Dark World along with the flippers, and effectively, I believe, puts to rest the chances of it being an Aga-required seed.
Also a very nice location for the Power Glove. Hagspam immediately heading back into Escape to check those 3 chests.
We're gonna look and see what we missed early on just because we couldn't find bombs.
Yeah, so here we go. We got the map, 300 rupees, and the piece of heart, which means in this early game, they could have added access to pay off Zora.
So we've had someone asking Cloud, or Dav Cloud has asked in chat, how can you get there without the gloves? Well, it is possible in this version of Randomizer to go back into the castle and run through the back way. Basically just the same way that you got there in the first place. It's very rare that you'll see someone do that, as it is quite a long sequence just to find those 3 chests.
And that was something I had to learn the hard way back when I started Randomizer, is the door that you normally have to push with Princess Zelda actually stays open after you've left Escape, and that's what allows you to get back in there.
Now, hagspam's going to be able to go into the Dark World through this portal, the portal up here in the Lost Woods, and then probably going to do the Village of Outcasts checks, and maybe give us a map check to see what's up in the Dark World.
And hagspam did not talk to Shish Kebab, so he doesn't even know that Skullwoods is the green pendant at this point. This is a great play. Plenty of items available, you know, in the Village of Outcasts themselves. Thieves Town having another 4, and it looks like Palace of Darkness is red, and Swamp Palace is blue pendant this time around. I did not see where the other 5/6 crystal was.
Yes, the other 5/6 crystal is in Misery Mire. So now that we have full knowledge of where our runners are going to have to go, we can start to make a little bit better speculations onto how they might plan out their routing. Just a 5-bomb upgrade in chest game, along with 100 rupees for hagspam. It's just kind of nice, keeping him above that 500 rupee mark. It's going to feel like can hit Zora up whenever he happens to be around there again. And into Thieves Town he goes. Now, the first 4 checks here in Thieves Town are real easy to find, so hopefully he'll find an item that gives him some value.
Well, I would call that value. Half magic is always a really nice thing to find. It just makes a whole lot of things a heck of a lot easier. And also, you know, Thieves Town, it has 4 unique items. The flute being the second one of them. So this dungeon turning out to already have a very decent amount of value, and it is full clearable because they have the hammer.
Yes, and we may in fact actually end up seeing Kane strats against Blind, as the hammer is kind of a tricky item to kill him with. So we'll see if either of our runners, if they make this play, chooses to go that way. There's the cape. So that has also put Bumper Cave into the logic.
Yeah, they can get up there, and they're in the area, so it might not be too bad of an idea to make that quick check, just because there's not a whole lot of other opportunities to route that in. I also really liked the Chic sprite, the bunny sprite on hagspam's side.
Yeah, it was pretty. I hadn't seen that one yet. So meanwhile, Chenzi Koden is taking out the overworld item checks in Village of Outcasts probably before heading into Thieves Town, or I would assume before heading into Thieves Town, but we'll see in a few seconds if that's his plan. And it seems to be the case. So we are already at 3 out of 4 items from Thieves Town dungeon. Still potential for one more piece of goodies, but so far everything here has been of significant usefulness.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is, you know, one of these dungeons that I pretty much always visit, even if it is a pendant, just because with the number of items, and it does tend to have a lot of useful stuff, and it's fairly easy to complete.
Yeah, now our runners are really waiting for something like Hookshot, or perhaps even the Mirror, to give them access to the Death Mountain checks, which are another significant number of checks to look at.
Well, it looks like those thieves were pretty busy, because this has been a very valuable dungeon. They just found their first sword at about 28.5 minutes in for hagspam, and Chenzi's going to find it pretty soon too. So not too bad in terms of time being spent without a sword.
Yeah, not awful, and the only downside to this is it means that most likely we won't be seeing sweet Cane of Samaria strats on the blind fight. Which makes me sad.
Yeah, it is interesting. In the vanilla game, I mean, the Cane of Samaria, as we've seen with many runners, is an extremely versatile weapon. And in the vanilla game, it really doesn't have anything close to that amount of usefulness in terms of the way the logic is written. They just kind of use it to make a couple blocks and make a platform you can move around on, but you don't really discover its versatility as a weapon.
So an interesting thing just happened by having the chest up there in the dungeon turn out to be a dungeon item. It means that one of two things can happen. Either Blind is sitting on the final item, or he has the key. If he does have a key, then that means that our runners are going to probably be orphaning a chest here in Thieves Town unless they feel obligated to go back in here right away and take a look at what's in the big key chest.
I thought we already found all 4 items in this dungeon, though.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. We found the sword.
Yeah, it was sword, flute, cape, and I cannot remember the other one.
The half magic.
Half magic.
Yes.
So yeah, there's no reason for them to come back. Didn't have to waste the time to open that big chest. And at just 30 minutes in, hagspam has the first crystal of the game.
And both of our runners are basically on the same path right now, so hagspam's going to go ahead and clear out the rest of these Village of Outcasts checks while Chenzi Koden takes care of the boss of Blind.
And with them finding the flute in Thieves Town, that opens up quite a few more locations that can now be checked. It opens up Death Mountain, although they can't do a whole lot without either the mirror or the hook shot. But they can get up there. They can get over to the Mire area in the Dark World. Wait, correction, no they can't.
What might be interesting is if either of the runners decides to go and look at Bumper Cave at this point, as they do have access to it. But hagspam has taken the southern exit from the Village of Outcasts, and without the Titans bit, can't get back in. So that changes routing a little bit.
Now, in terms of items, this is a good choice, because he's probably going to do this and then head over to Stumpy, and then we'll probably see a check of Hype Cave, which we never know what that's going to be like. I've seen some amazing ones, and I've seen some terrible ones.
Yep, it will be telling. The number of digs here was pretty substantial. Now, in Randomizer, both runners will have to go through the same number of digs at dig spot. It's not random. So, it's generated at the time of the seed creation, how many digs they'll have to do. Guard gets in the way of his dash. And Chenzi Koden takes down Blind as well, picking up his seed. And there you have it, folks. Stumpy
Wow.
actually gives up one of his arms, which happens to be the bow.
Wow, what a great item to find. That just opened up both Palace of Darkness, if you can do the dark rooms, and beating Eastern Palace and getting that third item. Of course,
absolutely.
Palace of Darkness is a pendant, so we don't know if that's going to be required just yet.
That is true, and when it is and as we know that it is a pendant, it is still kind of that kind of hesitation that you might make to think about going in there. Of course, it could potentially have a very important item, and here we see hagspam pick up the Master Sword upgrade, as well as a few more rupees there and some little pieces of heart in Hype Cave. So, 3 out of 5 Hype Cave, not the greatest, but not awful.
Yeah, I'm going to call that one a Hype Cave for sure. Finding a sword upgrade, especially once you're in that dark world, taking on some of these dungeons with just the fighter's sword sucks. So having that sword upgrade is huge. And hagspam now heading north, and he's going to check out the pyramid, and I'm wondering if we're also going to get a catfish check while he's in the area.
Now, he's got to be wishing that he had the mirror at this time, because he could then use the mirror after checking catfish to get that look at what the King Zora happens to be holding on to now that he has a sufficient amount of rupees.
Unfortunately, the pyramid just having a 5-arrow upgrade, so he nopes out, and it looks like it's time for him to check out Palace of Darkness. You know, even though it is a pendant dungeon, having the bow guarantees you're not going to be bow locked, and there are 5 unique items in this dungeon. So in terms of item density, this is a really good decision on his part.
Yeah, it's one of the few calls that really is available. There is action up on Death Mountain that they have access to with the flute. They could look at the Spectacle Rock Cave. But really, they don't have very many other potential choices. Skull Woods is also a pendant dungeon, and there's only 2 items there. So it does seem like a logical choice to make a dip into Palace of Darkness, where you can acquire all of the items if you need to.
Yeah, at this point, these runners are kind of looking for some key item that gives them an idea of where do I go next. But it is possible that that bow was that key item that they're looking for.
And we'll find out shortly. Big key in the first chest.
So this dungeon was bow locked, but because the bow was at Stumpy, he's going to be able to proceed with it. Unfortunately, not having the mirror, he's going to have to do the long way with quite a bit of the routing.
Yeah, it does cause a tremendous amount of rerouting and recovering your steps. Unless you're able to make use of some death warps, which probably runners will try to do at certain locations. This dungeon is a lot longer.
Yeah, way back when I played this game for the first time, I remember immediately upon getting into the Dark World, it's like, wow, substantial increase in difficulty, not to mention the length of those dungeons.
Yes, and this is typically the first dungeon that one does in the Dark World in the vanilla game, and it is incredibly more involved and maze-like than the overworld dungeons.
And so far, just finding a bunch of small keys. This dungeon does tend to be front-loaded with small keys, where most of the fun is in the back, and that I've heard this dungeon be called the Mullet Mansion for that reason.
Thanks, man. Gotta try and come through the back way to the bridge here in order to bomb it, and nope, it's deciding he's gonna route the other side first, not checking the vanilla big key spot.
And it's been very interesting, despite having some other locations available, these runners both essentially following each other's footsteps. There really hasn't been a whole lot of route divergence just yet.
Yeah, and that's indicative of the fact that they really only have very limited locations to go, and as you said earlier, the draw of all of the items here in Palace of Darkness is just too great to give up. So here we see hagspam making his way through a dark room, and he acquired something from that chest. It was probably an item upgrade. I didn't see anything dungeon item-wise.
Oh, looks like that dark room has 2 mystery items for us today.
Yeah, they could be bomb upgrade capacities or arrow upgrade capacities. Or we may have got a sword upgrade. Yes, we did. One of them was a sword.
Well, that just made this dungeon worth visiting. In terms of, especially the end of the game, the time differences between having the Master versus the Red Sword is substantial. So that was a great find on his part.
Yeah. At this early location, at this early time and location, that's awesome. So here we see hagspam going down, bombing this bridge. He's going to be able to check the vanilla Bigly location, and then the chest after in the bottom half of this room shortly thereafter.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if any one of these runners does the dark maze. It's definitely not super easy. I know I tried it in one of my runs fairly recently. I think it took me about 5 minutes, even having a map open on the screen. So, and hagspam saying nope, not interested.
Yeah, he seems to believe that he's found all that he's going to get out of this dungeon that was progression-based value. He did find a couple of things that are useful. The tempered sword is nice. A fire shield as well was the other item, now that I can see it from the front. Thanks, chat, for pointing that one out. But we didn't really get anything that leads us to new locations. So I'm going to guess that we might see a little activation of the flute and then maybe a run up Death Mountain, or perhaps a pop into the Skull Woods area to see what those two chests are potentially.
I know definitely when it was version 26, I believe it was Carcat who said, you know, if you're in doubt about what to do next, go to Skull Woods, because there was almost always something of worth in that dungeon.
So hagspam makes use of the swag deck here and heads up. He's going to rescue Old Man, I assume. Oh, maybe not. Not comfortable with that in the dark. And give us a look-see at what's up under the Spectacle Rock Cave, as well as what's on top of Spectacle.
I wonder if after the lack of progression at Palace of Darkness, hagspam decided to focus on things that are within the logic rather than going through the trouble of getting the Old Man, even though it is one of the easier dark rooms, and finding the mirror shield or the riot shield inside of Spectacle Rock.
He has a red potion for health, and he has the cape. Half magic does give you enough to put Spike Cave in logic at this point, but it turns out he's not willing to pull that trigger yet. I think he might be going up to check out Zora.
Yeah, he has over 500 rupees now, and you know, yet another one of those locations that's easy to forget if you don't do it the first time you're here. So, you know, and with no clear direction of what dungeon to do next, really any decision is just as good as another.
Yep, Chenzi actually also bails out of Palace of Darkness to activate his flute. Let's see if Zora's actually got a deal for us today, or nope, just another horrible life lesson.
Yeah, Zora does tend to be a bad investment most of the time. That said, it's still not a location you want to miss because of the fact that it is one of those sphere, I believe it's sphere 1 items where you can essentially get it almost at the beginning of the game. Although you do, by the logic, need either the flippers or the power glove to get there.
So I think that Chenzi's gonna, or hagspam is gonna go check Lumberjack Cave. He chose to skip this early on, but now he's starting to wonder, like, do I have to kill Aga to get this item? But he's gonna find out that the answer is no in just a few moments. Meanwhile, Chenzi Koden went and rescued the Old Man in the dark. So now this won't be a logically in sequence item. It's just a full heart container. And we'll see if he chooses to pick up the tower shield once he gets to the top of Death Mountain.
Yeah, I wonder if hagspam was kind of second guessing that mushroom location, and then while he's in the area, he's going to go ahead and head to the Dark World. I'm guessing Skull Woods is his next play.
Yeah, there's really not much else for him to do here in the Light World, so that seems to be the only option. Meanwhile, Chenzi is going to go ahead and pick up the Mirror Shield here.
Well, Aegina's Cave is still available, and with the boots and the flute, that actually isn't nearly as much of an out-of-the-way location as it used to be.
That is absolutely true. The other big check here is Spike Cave up on top of Death Mountain. We'll see if Chenzi remembers that he can do that at this time. He's heading back up, so perhaps he does remember that that's within possibility for him. So our first item in Skull Woods, just another bottle.
Yeah, so 3 of the 4 bottles located. Nice safety item, but at this point, this is not what the runners want. They need some progression. Oh! Hagspam getting killed by the Wallmaster. Or not killed, rather, but picked up and dragged back to the beginning.
Yeah, that was not intentional. And we see here in Spike Cave, it is the Titan's Mitt. Absolutely something that the runners are going to want to pick up.
Oh my gosh, and Hagspam was right there, and it really looked like he was thinking about doing it, so who knows, depending on how things go, it might be a while before he heads back in that direction, and that could make a big impact.
That is a very, very significant missed item. Usually if you don't make that call early on to go there, it's very rare that you're going to find another opportunity until it's the very last place to look, especially considering it was a progression item. So, making use of the Titan's Mitt, Chenzi Koden checks out King's Tomb, but finds nothing of value.
So really, our first route divergence of the game turning out to be a really big deal here.
Absolutely true. Chenzi's now able to check the Dark World areas around Misery Mire. Is going to get a look at what's inside the Mire shed. Took a little peek there at the medallion required for Misery Mire. Unfortunately, didn't quite get a good glimpse at it. I'll take a closer look here in the restream.
It was the Ether medallion.
Ether, and he does find the lantern there in the Mire shed. Okay,
so, well, if he had the Ether, Misery Mire would be within logic to beat now.
Absolutely. That does put Tower of Hera almost in logic. There's still a Aegina's Cave to check. Desert Palace is still missing a mirror.
Yeah, Desert Palace needs either the mirror or the book. It is possible that the mirror, I believe, could be optional because Swamp Palace is a pendant dungeon, so this might be a mirrorless seed.
That is quite true. It looks like Chenzi's going to go ahead and finish off Eastern Palace. He knows there's an item there, and so it could be what he's looking for, and we're going to see Run Up to Catfish here from hagspam.
I know one of the things that was taught to me when I very first started to do Randomizer is if there's a crystal dungeon and you can do it, just do it.
Yeah, that also means that Ice Palace is accessible. It is full clearable. The routing without... Oh, there's the Quake medallion there at Catfish. Not the medallion we were looking for, but perhaps the one we need for Turtle Rock.
Yeah, vanilla Catfish this time around.
But as I was saying, Ice Palace is completable, but without the hook shot, it is a little bit trickier. It's the non-speedrun standard routing. You'd have to go through it.
Right. Depending on the key and item placement, it is basically a sequence break. I believe the best way to get around it is by using the Ice Palace bomb jump, which most people can do, but it is not technically within the logic right now.
Yeah, that is one of the ways that you can do it. There is the vertical bomb jump that some people will make is actually incredibly difficult compared to some of the more traditional bomb jumps you see in the game. But a lot of runners in this tournament are able to make it, and many of them can do it first try. So we'll see what happens with these runners if they choose to make that pathway.
And hagspam deciding to check out Aegina's cave. You know, this is one of those locations that's accessible in the very, very early game, so, you know, almost anything can be in this cave.
And I'm sure our runners are going to be pretty upset if they find something like hookshot here, knowing that they could have had it so much longer. But it turns out to just be 3 bombs.
And meanwhile, Chenzi Koden taking on the Armos Knights, so after about 18 arrows, we're going to find out what were these guys holding on to this whole time.
Just a big 20.
And hagspam heading back up to Death Mountain, so he is now going to find his Titan's Mitts, it looks like, and that's going to open up a lot more locations for him.
Yeah, and at this point it looks like it might actually be Ice Palace as the play to make.
Yeah, Ice Palace is a good play, well within the logic, because you have the flippers. For most people, it's not the most fun dungeon in the world. I know it's personally my least favorite. But it does have 3 unique items, so beyond just being another crystal they can get, there's the possibility of finding something else that's critical to their game.
Yeah, Chenzi's choosing to take the long way into the Zora area. He hasn't yet turned in his 500 rupees. He could have fluted down to 8 and taken the Whirlpool, which would have been quicker, but instead he came over to the Witch's house and is making the traditional run.
Unfortunately, this traditional route's going to only lead to, I believe it was a big 20, so...
And now we'll see if hagspam pulls the trigger on Ice Palace. No, he has not yet checked out Misery Mire area, so he'll pick up his mirror at this point, which is definitely worth his time and energy. Takes a little look there to see the Ether Medallion is what would let him into Misery Mire.
Did you say mirror? I believe it was lamp.
I meant lantern. I might have said mirror. I meant lantern. I wasn't sure if I did. No one corrected me. And now Chenzi is definitely making that play into Ice Palace. And I will be surprised if hagspam isn't also about to do so.
Yeah, it's a little less fun just because of the fact that you have...
Oh no!
Okay. Hagspam is going to go beat Armos Knights.
Hasn't yet defeated the Armos Knights.
Well, this is actually going to work in his favor because right now he has basically no magic. So after beating the Armos Knights, he's going to get a refill.
Yeah, that is going to be beneficial. All right, so we will be watching Chenzi's stream now because we're going to see a whole bunch of new locations. And it'll be interesting to see what the seed throws at us. The Tempered Sword, taking out these Penguinators is really simple. Just one sword spin does it. Gets the compass out of the first chest. Nothing to write home about yet. The traditional weapon for defeating them is, of course, the hook shot. We'll see if Chenzi's able to get a nice skip on these skeletons. Fortunately, he didn't quite get the timing perfect. His second try should be able to do it, though. I'll be coming up on the first of the two possible bomb jumps that runners make in Ice Palace. This one is far more common than the second one and is substantially easier. And it will allow him to skip right to Cold Stare, or makes the routing to Cold Stare significantly easier. He can bomb himself past these two orange pegs. Didn't quite get it on his first try, but we'll see what happens in a few seconds.
Yeah, the Ice Palace bomb jump is one of the easier ones to learn, but it still takes a little bit of effort to set up properly.
Yeah, in this case, it looks as if he's not super familiar with Zero Suit Samus's bright location, but he looks a little too far back. It looks like he needs to come back a step more to be on the right pixel. You have to really, really be on the edge. That looks better. And now he's got to come up just a bit. I'm having difficulty finding this pixel, and it is not easy if you're not familiar visually locating where you need to stand. He's down to 1/2 of a heart, so he's going to save and quit. And I'm not sure what the plan is going to be then for Chenzi.
So while we have a little bit of a downtime, let's take a look at these items and what they have left. Is there anything left for pedestal hype today?
Well, we know it can't be hookshot, which is one of the items that they're absolutely in need of. Nor can it be the fire rod, which as well is an item that they need because of both Swamp Palace and Skull Woods requiring those items.
And because of Swamp, it can't be the mirror.
That is true as well. So I'm going to say it could potentially be the Ether Medallion. And that's about it.
I believe it could be Book of Medora. Yeah, it looks like either the Ether or the Book of Medora are the only two items that it could be.
Fetch quested into the Book of the Ether Medallion. For it to have been anything of value.
Of course, now that they have the Titan's Mitts, that does open a few more overworld options as Chenzi takes a look at Peg Cave and just finds a 5-bomb upgrade. He's also going to be able to do the Jeremiah World Tour now and eventually get the purple chest. And it looks like we're possibly getting a bumper cave check.
That's been available to them for quite some time. Hagspam deciding to go back in and check out these last chests in the Dark Maze now that he's got the lantern. Just 5 bombs there on Bumper Cave, so nothing special. And the Dark Maze doesn't have anything of tremendous value either, just a compass and a single arrow.
Yeah, so we're going to be able to look at the big chest and finding a heart container, but that they have found both the compass and the map, so that means that Helmasaur King does have something. And it looks like Hagspam is going to check for us what that's going to be.
Chenzi's going to give a return Jeremiah the Bullfrog, now back in Smith Gnome form. And then I would imagine he'll pick up the purple chest and turn that in. If he chooses to go activate the Darth Globe again, but nope. Just going to take a look at what's on Desert Ledge. It's just 100 rupees. And make his Agina check.
Okay, hagspam opening up the passage, and we're definitely gonna get a look at Helmosaur King.
Yeah, this is quite the risk. It's a pretty big gamble to hope that a pendant dungeon boss has that one progressive item, but stranger things have happened, so we'll see if this is the case in just a few moments.
Yeah, this has been a very interesting seed. The vast majority of the time has been spent not having really any clear indication of what to do next.
Yeah, and at this point it really is Ice Palace that is the only kind of obvious choice, but both runners, obviously Chenzi made an attempt and pulled out, but both runners are actively avoiding it, it seems.
You know, Ice Palace is the least favorite for a lot of people, so I definitely don't blame them for not wanting to go there. But it is a crystal dungeon, it is completable. It's definitely just about that time to go take that place on. And Helmosaur King falls to hagspam with some slashes with a red sword, and getting just 20 rupees for his trouble, so unfortunately that ending up being a time sink unless we have something important on that pedestal.
Yeah, that is true. And at this point, just the number of items necessary, as we've already kind of determined, it has to be, if it's going to be required, it has to be Ether Medallion. And the chance of that happening at this point is fairly low in the game. Because they'd have to then find a whole bunch of other items to open up these other dungeons. And there aren't very many places to look outside of logical progression.
And hagspam heading back into the Village of Outcasts area. Has he not checked Skullwoods yet?
I believe he's done the front part of Skullwoods. He's going to head back into perhaps grab the purple chest. Yep, Gary's lunchbox maybe? Nope. Oh, he hasn't yet done Jeremiah, so that's probably...
That's right. Chenzi Koden did do Jeremiah, but elected not to do the purple chest yet.
Yeah, it's when you don't have the mirror, it takes a whole other return to the Village of Outcasts to do that. Instead, it looks like he as well is going to go through the Dark Maze and into the... Oh, maybe? Nope. Pause there. Looked like he might have changed his mind. Can't quite tell. He's thinking. Oh, he makes the correct call, at least as far as we can tell, to abandon that path.
And hagspam electing not to do Peg Cave yet, but then again he will have to come back at least one more time in order to do the purple chest, so he might be waiting for that time.
Forgetting that he has to leave before he can come back in and collect his 20 rupees tip. So Chenzi looks like he's going to stock up on some potion before heading back to Ice Palace, I believe, in order to have some additional chances at that bomb jump. And as is often the case, he's going to get there and do it one shot just because the game trolls.
Now, of course, the game logic does not require you to know that bomb jump, which means there must be some kind of progression somewhere else that would give them the ability to proceed.
Well, it isn't that it is possible to complete this dungeon without that bomb jump. It's just slower. It's the second bomb jump that is a little bit more, requires a little bit more creative trickiness. The game logically assumes you have the hook shot for it, but you can also steal a key and come in from another angle in order to make it. So, well, there are some chests that are logically behind the hook shot. That only happens in very, very specific situations.
And hagspam checking out the purple chest after getting his 5-bond upgrade in the peg cave, so we'll see what the lunchbox has this time around. Hopefully some progression.
Just a piece of heart, though. Enough to fill him with a new heart container, but not enough to do anything but send him over to Ice Palace.
So in terms of crystals and items, these two runners are basically getting to a neck-and-neck status again. You know, Chenzi's in Ice Palace right now, but only about a minute or so ahead of hagspam. So these runners really are still very close in time to spending, despite taking some very different routes.
Yes, Chenzi taking a detour really has allowed hagspam to catch back up, and we are back in neck-and-neck race mode. We know there has to be some form of progression here in Ice Palace, and I would be incredibly surprised if it isn't either Ether Medallion or the hookshot. Although I suppose it could be Mirror, which would lead to some fetch.
Speaking of which, the commentator's curse strikes again.
As I curse Chenzi Koden.
But of course, this is a pendant or a crystal dungeon, so we're not just looking for one item, we are looking for 3. We still haven't found the silver arrows, which, you know, depending on the runner's skill level, I don't really know them too well. I don't know if they know how to do silverless Ganon.
Yeah, silverless Ganon with the tempered sword, it's not so bad. It is just 12 spins. But it is tricky if you have not been practicing it. So what some people aren't aware of is the bomb will kill these giant skeletons, but only if they are hurt. Now the minor glitch here is that the game doesn't check if each individual skeleton is in that debilitated state. It just realizes that one is and makes both of them vulnerable.
And Chenzi attempting a bomb jump here. And getting it! Very nice!
Yeah, that's an excellent change in his routing. He has a key now, so he can actually bypass the more difficult bomb jump to get to this room now using that key. It's a really good move.
And now hagspam having a little bit of difficulty on his side doing the bomb jump. Unfortunately, this is going to kill him.
Yeah, it was a little too far down in that case, but earlier hagspam went and picked up some fairies from the cave behind Link's house. So I believe he has 2 in his pocket.
And Chenzi finding the big key.
He might have got it there. Yep, hagspam did have the bomb jump there.
And Chenzi now checking the vanilla big key chest and just finding 20 bucks. So I believe we found 2 of the items, right?
Yep, there could be an item either on Cold Stare or on in the big key chest. Oh, and there's also this chest right here. I just realized that did not yet check.
I'm just finding the map there, so still looking for that 3rd item. And he's heading over to check out the big chest right now.
And then I assume it will be down to Cold Stare shortly thereafter.
And now with both of them finding the mirror, this unlocks a vast amount of items on Death Mountain, because there's Tower of Hera, even though it is... Well, actually, no, never mind. That is a crystal dungeon. So you have Tower of Hera, you have the Spiral Cave, you have Paradox Cave with its 7 items, and you have the Dark World, you have Super Bunny Cave, and one of the chests in Hookshot Cave. So I didn't bother counting all of that up, but a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot is the technical term for that. I agree. So here now, Chenzi's going to show us that when you have the cane, it doesn't matter if you haven't pushed that block down. You can easily just make your own block.
Yeah, typically when I play through the vanilla game, I would always do Misery Mire first, just for that specific reason of making Ice Palace that much easier.
So we have a question in chat about the reason why hagspam's colors look a little different. With the Super Nintendo game and Super Nintendo, there was a display limit to the number of colors available that could be on screen at a time. And so in Zelda Randomizer, the wonderful and talented different sprite artists make use of these colors when designing their sprites. And in the event that they need a color that's not normally available in the game, they'll find one to swap out, and it sometimes affects what things look like. And they try their best to avoid making things look like a visual mess. And so in this case, it clearly seems that one shade of blue was switched for another just to make things look better on the sprite. And that's an indicator that they have gone ahead and really researched what they needed to do while making their sprites. So excellent work on their part.
Alright, as Chenzi Koden beats Cold Stare, Hagspam begins Cold Stare. So once again, these 2 runners only, just under a minute apart in terms of crystal dungeons.
Yeah, Hagspam taking a little bit of a risk here that the only progression item is either on Cold Stare or was that mirror. Turns out that that is the correct call to have made. But it is keeping him in the game.
And Hagspam a little low on hearts, so using the magic cape to take out Cold Stare. Cold Stare, even with that blue mail, does a pretty good amount of damage, so this is not a bad idea at all.
Chenzi Koden deciding to go into Desert Palace, it seems, instead of heading up the Death Mountain. Also going to look at Checkerboard Cave.
Well, both of these locations are required. They're both crystals, so really, doing one before the other is just as good as another one.
So Hagspam actually electing to go back in, realizes that he's left something in this dungeon. And doesn't want it to be something important.
Which chest did he not open?
I believe there was like a big 20 or something, either in the vanilla big key chest or in the one right around that area. And he therefore hasn't checked the big key chest either, because that was in one of those chests. doesn't yet have the big key. So Chenzi Koden sees that the torch had a big 20. That's one of the 2 items in Desert Palace, but does mean that this dungeon was not boots locked. And finds a key here in the first real chest that he can access, which is going to take him to the right side of the dungeon.
Yeah, and right now, really, all we need for go mode is hook shot, fire rod, and the ether medallion. So we're not that far away. Of course, we don't know where any of those items are. Chenzi finding just the map in the first chest on the right-hand side, and that means the second one is going to be the big key.
Yeah, the real danger with finding the mirror is that it leads us into Swamp, which, well, a pendant dungeon is also not finishable at this time because of the lack of a hookshot. So it really is frustrating. I feel like for the runners, I feel like they're probably going to, after finishing Desert, I feel Chenzi's probably going to head up Death Mountain. There's just so many overworld checks there. There's gotta feel like there's something of value. Plus, he'll get a good look at what Turtle Rock is, just to make sure if he needs to find Quake, because he has not yet visited Catfish.
Okay, hagspam didn't check any of the chests on the right-hand side of Ice Palace, so he actually has 2 more item locations to go now. Meanwhile, Chenzi is taking a little bit of a gamble. There's still 1 item left, and he chose not to open the big chest just yet, instead heading directly toward the land mollas.
Yes, that is true. He could it's fairly easy to go back in the event that you don't find something, though. So with boots, I think it's a calculated gamble. Let's see how he does at Land Bolus. With the Tempered Sword, it's not too bad of a fight. Of course, you'd like to have either Fire Rod or Silver Arrows for this, but neither of those items are available to our runners right now.
I've actually seen a couple runners do a really good job with the Ice Rod, which does the same amount of damage to the land mollas as the Fire Rod, even though it does move a little bit more slowly.
That is true, often forgotten, mostly just because of that slow movement. And it turns out that Big Key was the item location, as Chenzi finds the compass there on Land Mollas. So he's going to have to head back in to this dungeon if he doesn't want to orphan a chest there.
Like you said, not too long to go back in really quick and check that 1 item.
Now,
Desert Palace
taking the opposite path. He's going to head up Death Mountain and use the mirror to check all of these dungeons, or these item checks, and do the Tower of Hera dungeon. So another little route divergence. We'll see if it helps him pick up some time. Obviously, the Desert Palace being a required dungeon means that even if this wasn't progression and it was just a piece of heart, it was still a very worthwhile dip for Chenzi to make.
So now with Desert Palace beaten, I'm guessing he's going to probably once again meet up with hagspam, and yeah, he's heading directly up to Death Mountain with the technical term of a lot of items available. This is definitely the play to make.
So we find the map in the basement, in the first part of the basement. Obviously, not going to bother picking that up.
Now, we mentioned how these runners were so close to each other. It is worth noting that Chenzi has not visited the Catfish and does not have the Quake medallion, which means if Turtle Rock is Quake required, this could lead to something that could allow Hag to make up some time.
So hagspam manages to lock himself into the coffee break position on these pegs. You can see that his sprite is flashing, which indicates that it's invincible, and you can just wait while these tiles harmlessly splash off him.
Yeah, it's a great time to go get a drink, stretch, because it takes, what is it, about 45 seconds for all those tiles to fly around?
It is a deceptively long time. Thank you to KGB the Hero for doing the math and counting up the item locations that are available to our runners. Turns out that it's 12 and 16. 12 chests, normally 16 if they find the hookshot, that are available to them between these two locations, Death Mountain and the Tower of Hera. I'm going to trust your ability to count. Oh, we find a mushroom here. Tower of Hera. More fetch quests up here on Death Mountain. That's the shovel and the mushroom located.
Yeah, absolutely. Luckily, both of those items or those locations are fairly close to flute points, so it won't be too hard for those two to be checked.
And it's just another big 20 so far in the big key chest.
So with the mushroom and the big 20, that's all the items that we're going to find in Tower of Hera. Now it's just on to Troll Dorm, and we'll see how he decides to beat today.
So at this point, we are looking for 3 items. We need the Fire Rod, the Ether Medallion,
and Hookshot.
And the Hookshot. I was drawing a blank for a moment. In order to achieve Go mode for this particular seed, Hagspam picks up this crystal, and Chenzi is going to follow fairly close behind with this crystal as well. Now, keeping in mind that Hagspam has not yet head down to Desert, which is another crystal dungeon, but Chenzi has. Actually, I'm thinking about it, but gonna go take a look up there on the floating island before dropping down Spiral Cave.
And just finding 20 rupees on the floating island. So now in Spiral Cave, of course, this is one of those caves where you really, really want to have the boops. It feels like something worse than a tile room when you don't have those. So being able to whip around those corners a lot more quickly. And finding 300 bucks. Not really required at this point in the game because they've done all the things that require rupees, but this will give him a little bit of refill if he wants to collect some bottles of blue potion later on.
Yeah, since he did acquire the mushroom, he's probably heading back to the bottle vendor at some point, unless he finds everything he needs shortly. So I'm going to take a little shortcut through to Paradox Cave.
Yeah, Paradox Cave, so called because you start out at the bottom of the mountain, you fall down, and then you exit higher up than you started. So, not exactly sure how that happened, but that's why we call it Paradox Cave. And now, Hagspam going back into kind of the second mini Moldorm cave, so to speak. And finding the red meringue, another piece of heart, another piece of heart. So far, 4 pieces of heart in this area. A full heart container, and another full heart container. Should we call this the Cavern of Love now?
I don't think there could be a possible other name for it at this point. So we're going to get a look now into Super Bunny Cave. He's going to pick up the Dark Rock down here, access the Dark World. Now, Chenzi's doing something slightly different. He's going to set up a mirror in between these 2 doors between the Super Bunny Cave and the side entrance to Paradox Cave. It's going to allow him a slightly quicker and more efficient exploration of these 2 locations.
And in chat, Gwydion Knight calling it the Love Shack. That's definitely a good name for it.
So now in the event that we don't find anything that we're looking for here, it really means that we're stuck with something like Swamp Palace that's not completable as the next highest density location of potential progression.
Yeah, we could also have Turtle Rock. We have not seen what medallion is required.
That is true.
And I'm guessing we're going to see that. Hopefully Hagspam will give us a look at that while he's in the area.
So this may not be known to everyone, but you can actually bomb jump or bonk to that one specific chest in Hookshot Cave.
And I have found the hookshot in that chest, and I was so angry when that happened. Turtle Rock requiring the Quake, so good for Hagspam, not so good for Chenzi. So both Misery Mire and Turtle Rock requiring their vanilla medallions this game. And I'm guessing Hagspam is going to go ahead and go inside Turtle Rock. Without the Fire Rod, really only one chest that he can check. However, that one chest does have a tendency to have a progression item, so it could definitely be something worthy. And of course, if it happens to be the Fire Rod, then this would make Turtle Rock full clearable.
Now, it's clearly going to be the Ether Medallion, just because this seed does not want to give them any like item at the time that they want it. Seems to be the case. Oh, and it's just a key, so actually able to continue on deeper into the dungeon. Just gonna have to give up on the two chests over on the right side there. So it was not Fire Rod locked for us.
And Hagspam now in definitely one of the scariest rooms of the entire game. These chain chomps doing massive amounts of damage and being very unpredictable. Did it very well, however, just found the big key, so that means he is locked out of this dungeon by the Fire Rod. So the search continues.
Yeah, that's actually good news for Chenzi, because it means that both the runners have to continue looking for items. It gives him another chance to locate that which is missing.
And it looks like Hagspam is going to check out a couple locations here and probably do Desert Palace, which he has not completed yet.
He kind of took a circuitous route there to get to Checkerboard Cave. Maybe he didn't remember if he'd done Agina's Cave, but in fact he has.
And Chenzi going to turn in the first of our fetch quest items, digging in the normal flute location and finding another heart container. So this has definitely been a very healthy seed. Chenzi with 16 of the 20 heart containers possible.
I'm going to head into the Dark World now. There's still Graveyard Ledge as well that is available to look at. Might be willing to take that northern route over to Catfish, which would be really beneficial for him.
Yeah, I didn't notice. Did Chenzi actually look at which medallion was required for Turtle Rock?
I have to believe he did. I was watching what was going on Hagspam's screen at the time, so I'm not quite certain. Perhaps someone in chat knows. So So unfortunately for Chenzi, we know that this purple chest is not going to give him anything that he wants, but he's going to be able to take a look at this cave south of the Grove, which may have something useful. So while he's doing this, finding the butter sword, it's a good time to remind our viewers that these two runners, along with all other 500 or so entrants to the Zelda Randomizer tournament, have been putting on such a fantastic show for us these past weeks, and in the upcoming 10 or so weeks left, there'll be so much rando to watch. If you don't mind, I'm sure they would appreciate it if you would head on over to their channels and throw them a follow, just for taking the time to participate in a tournament like this and providing us with hours and hours and hours of entertainment. So in the chat right now, you can take a look and see the 2 links to both of these runners' channels. And if you feel so inclined, you might toss them a follow.
Absolutely. And Chenzi heading into the Dark World from location number 5, so it looks like he might be going over to Pod.
Yeah, he has not completed Pod, unlike hagspam, but this also... Nope, he's going into Pod. So hagspam's going to try and show us some Ice Rod strats on Lamolus. As you can see, it's a little bit slower, but it's getting some nice RNG to position them correctly.
Oh, plus it shows some use of that Ice Rod, which, you know, really has so little use in the game, even though it's something that you can get probably in the first 15 minutes of a vanilla game.
So we're getting confirmation from somebody in chat that that on Chenzi's stream he's marked Quake as the medallion required for Total Rock, so he must have taken a look at it. Thank you very much. So we are really at a true stalemate between these two runners. Neither of them is, at this point, any further ahead than the other. There's a couple of checks in the overworld between them, but nothing of substantial except for that Quake medallion, which, while necessary, is not the item they're looking for at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, you know, in the back of our minds, that Ether medallion is the one item that of progression that could still be on the pedestal. Or I believe the Book of Medora could be on the pedestal with the medallion being in one of the
one of the 2
tablets.
That would be the only possible hang-up. So we're gonna get a mushroom check here from hagspam.
Yeah, we had a shovel check earlier, and it was just a big heart container.
Here we
now
find
hagspam.
5 rubies.
Ouch. So the search still continues.
Yep. So we have Graveyard Ledge as a possibility for both of the runners still. And then, of course, it's Swamp Palace, I believe, as the only viable location.
Yeah, we can't beat Skull Woods without the fire rod, so they can't go any further in there. Yeah, it's all about the Swamp Palace at this point. And even the vast majority of the overworld has been checked by this point.
And for hagspam, it's an easy decision to take to make their way to Swamp Palace. Really, they have checked more of those other checks than Chenzi has at this point. And so, in we go.
Yeah, Swamp Palace having 6 unique item locations, not all of them accessible because of the lack of the hook shot, but there's still, I believe, 4 or 5 chests that they're going to be able to check. And hagspam entering into Swamp Palace, while Chenzi Koden is taking on Helmasaur. Definitely not a bad play in this desperate search for just a couple more items. We do know it's not going to lead into anything, but you know, at this point, there's really no place that has a better chance than any other. So, and hagspam heading up to the chest and finding the big key. That's actually really helpful because number one, it gives them another chest that they're able to open right away. And number two, it eliminates one major example of backtracking. And Lund James, yes, both the bat and the mushroom have been turned in. The bat was 20 rupees, I believe, and the mushroom led to 5 rupees. And hagspam is going to end up having to do this particular room the long way, not having the hook shot to get that first small key. And finding just the compass, so far Swamp Palace not offering much as the options are dwindling, opening up the big chest and getting just a piece of heart. And hagspam realizing that he does have to go to the bottom side and get that small key first. And Chenzi deciding that it too is time for Swamp Palace.
Yes, at this point, really, there's not very many other places to check, so.
So hagspam has just these final 2 chests in Swamp Palace, and after that, I don't know where we're going to go from here. I'm trying to search my memory. I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think of any overworld locations that we haven't seen. Although it is possible that Hag has not checked some locations that Chenzi has, and vice versa.
Yes, at this point, Hag has not gone to Graveyard, which is where I think he would go next.
But even if the Master Sword pedestal is required, they are going to need that hook shot in order to beat Swamp Palace.
Well, there's the Fire Rod. So that reopens up Turtle Rock for hagspam.
And Turtle Rock and Skull Woods
is
now a possibility. And I don't remember how many items they actually found in Skull Woods, if they found both of them or not.
I can only recall the bottle being found early on in that Gibdos room, but I'm not sure if they found a second item in Skull Woods yet.
And hagspam about to open the last chest he can and finding just the map. So that is it for Swamp Palace right now. But he did find some progression. He's now going to be able to continue in Turtle Rock, where there are still a lot of different possibilities in terms of items.
Yes, now the real disappointment for Chenzi here is going to be that he'll find the fire rod, but won't be able to do anything with it in Turtle Rock. He may be drawn to Skull Woods, but of course Skull Woods is a pendant dungeon, so may lead him in a direction that's not ideal. But of course, there's nothing to rule out the fact that Saharshala doesn't want to trade in that green pendant for, say, the hookshot or perhaps the ether medallion.
And Skull Woods is the green pendant, and at this point, both of these runners are very well equipped to finish Skull Woods and go beat Mothula, so it would not be a bad play if Turtle Rock ends up not having any kind of progression. But with 5 items inside plus the Mimic Cave outside, I can't imagine there not being some kind of progression resulting from Turtle Rock.
Yeah, I agree. It is definitely the play to be made at this time. No doubt in my mind that this is where you want to go if you're hagspam. The real question will be, where does Chenzi look after he finds the fire rod, knowing that he can't get into Turtle Rock yet?
Now, it is worth noting that since they do have the boots to complete that entrance into Misery Mire, I do believe the hookshot could be in Ganon's Tower.
Yes, that is a possibility. Oh no! Hagspam changing his mind there for a moment, resetting the room.
And fortunately, he has half magic, so no problem. Plenty of fire rod power left. Slashing a little bit.
In the event that you ever do run out of magic, the mirror will take you out, and there's the full magic pot right at the entrance. So
there's also a full magic pot in this room, the lower skull, yeah. Although typically, you like to collect that after completing this area.
Yeah, especially if you want to make use of something like the cape or Cane O'Brien.
And finding 2 small keys, and looks like Hagspam is going to do a death warp and head back to the beginning. Oh, or not.
Forgetting that many minutes ago acquired a couple of fairies in bottle.
Yeah, the routing of this dungeon isn't too bad, but there's quite a few areas that have very difficult enemies, and it can be a very dangerous dungeon. I recently had to do it with green mail, and that is just not fun at all.
Yeah, these chain chomps especially can just ruin your day, as they almost did to Hagspam there. Now, fortunately, he has magic powder, so he can replenish his hearts here off these anti-fairies if he chooses.
Yeah, magic powder, besides being a fetch quest item, has no other logical use in the game. However, it is probably one of my favorite things to have, just because of it being a safety item. And there's a very large number of areas in the game, especially in the later game, with lots of anti-fairies, so it gets a lot of use.
So while we were watching Hagspam play his way through Turtle Rock there, Chenzi went to the Graveyard Ledge and saw a big 20, but then jumped in the water and is going to get his much required catfish check, which is probably going to send him up to Turtle Rock as well, putting him back on track. So once again, we've kind of had a switch of fortunes, but Chenzi is going to recover from that in a few moments.
And we did have an interesting decision on hagspam's side, and maybe he's counting things that I wasn't, but he did not go the route to get the small key, the route that goes directly to the vanilla big key chest. So he skipped those two items entirely.
Nice. Very interesting. He did get 2 keys that allowed him to make this call, but you're absolutely right. That is 2 chests that could potentially contain progression, and in a race of this nature, maybe he feels that he's behind and wants to make some gambles, but those are some awkward chests to orphan at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And he stood there before going that direction, so it did appear to me that he was actually making that decision. And hagspam getting close to the end of this area, finding just 50 rupees in the big chest.
So it's likely that we'll see from Chenzi, if he doesn't make that same play, whether or not hagspam's gamble will have paid off in a few moments.
Now, he did find an early small key, and he did skip a small key that was on the way to the vanilla big key chest. So I believe there is that possibility that Laser Bridge will not have a small key, and he's going to get stuck.
It could, yeah, that is possible.
But before we worry about that, Laser Bridge has 4 chests, so let's see if we finally get some progression here. First chest just being a 5-bomb upgrade.
He's going to want to be careful here. Oh, he's got a red potion to make use of.
So the second chest just having a piece of heart, and there's the hook shot in chest number 3.
It is a nice find. Doesn't put him in go mode yet. Still needs the ether medallion.
Interesting that he's choosing to use the laser skip, although he doesn't have a lot of magic power to use the cape.
Now there's a key, which means that there's something in that lava bridge chest. It could be a dungeon item. I'm not sure. They needs both the map and the compass at this point. So it's, I believe so that means that it is a dungeon item then.
Yes, because there's only 2 item locations left. You have that vanilla big key chest and Trinex himself. So his gamble did pay off.
Must have had a feeling. That's the only explanation. He's going to get a refill on his magic here from the second skull. And we'll see our first look at the Trinex fight. Tempered Sword Trinex is relatively easy. Forgetting to switch to the other ice rod, or to the fire rod there, but fortunately was able to hit the ice head before it made a mess all over the floor.
Yeah, and making very quick work of the first 2 heads. And we'll see how things end up at the end of this fight.
So now, if there is an item in Skull Woods left, it could be the Ether Medallion. Or there's Hookshot Cave, which I think is the next logical check for Hagspam. And then, of course, there's also the remainder chests in Swamp Palace. wonder if he might... Oh, I'm worried that he might have forgotten about Hookshot Cave there. I wonder if that's going to bite him.
Ooh. Yeah, that's 3 more chests that he could have checked. I do think he forgot. I can't imagine him choosing to warp away from that point with how close he was.
Now, it may not be a problem. Well, we'll see in a few moments. Meanwhile, Chenzi is getting bodied by these chain chomps, down to half a heart, but managed to escape. And hagspam electing to go back into Swamp Palace. So this is providing another window of opportunity for a swap in position between these runners.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of items, both of these runners now completely neck and neck. I mean, Chenzi does have the butter sword, but that's really not going to affect it too much.
Now, hagspam's going to go ahead and check Cave 45. He hasn't done so yet. Before heading back into Swamp Palace, perhaps. Now, if I were to say anything about this seed, it has been tremendously linear. In that it has been one place to go, really, that has been of value, and it's provided you with one place to go after that.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, now, you know, we're kind of at the... I mean, in terms of linearity, we're kind of at the end of it, just because nothing is guiding them to this ether medallion. We have no idea where it is. And we're still, you know, it's the last hope, so to speak, of a pedestal seed. And neither runner has the book, so there's no way to check to see if it is a pedestal seed. Hagspam checking a few more locations that we've seen, but he has not, so... And depending on how many overworld locations Hagspam ends up checking, this is definitely giving Chenzi a chance to get a little bit closer.
Yep, it's really just another opportunity for swap in fortunes. Chenzi was checking out Mimic Cave there, which is perfectly in the sequence of things for him to look at. And Hagspam is making his way back to the Dark World here near the swamp, so I'm guessing that that is his play.
It really is a good play. I mean, he's completed everything up to the point where you need hook shot, so you still have 4 or 5 item locations remaining in the dungeon after that hook shot. So, you know, certainly the potential for the ether medallion to be there. And of course, it'll be really interesting to see if Chenzi ends up checking Hookshot Cave after completing Turtle Rock.
Yeah, that is...
Because
really...
if he does, and if it has the Ether Medallion, that is going to put him at a huge advantage.
Yeah, you never want to make those climbs up Death Mountain unless you absolutely have to, or have a good reason to do so. Chenzi's going to choose to take the safety door here. Now he does have significantly more mana, so he can make use of the cape here to make Laser Bridge significantly easier.
But he actually doesn't need to because he has the mirror shield.
Well, that's true, he does. Finds the hook shot. Probably very happy about that find.
And with Chenzi finding the small key, he is just a couple screens away from his own Tri-Next fight. Meanwhile, hagspam heading down to the basement, and he's going to be able to check 3 more chest locations, and then head over to Argus.
Ooh, a piece of heart and a big 20. We're fast running out of places.
So hagspam up to 17 heart containers right now, more than we typically see. Meanwhile, chat calling for Swamp to Skull Woods to pedestal hype, which is definitely still in the cards.
Now, if he finishes this, I feel like that will be his play. He'll finish this one without finding Ether Medallion. I think that he'll head up to Skullwoods for sure, since he's already finished Palace of Darkness. And we'll see Ped pull immediately following the Mothula fight.
And of course, one of the best things about having one of the higher level swords in the Argus fight is being able to kill the puffballs in just one swing.
Now the moment of truth here is going to be, does Chenzi remember to go check Hookshot Cave as he leaves? Yes, he is. He is definitely heading over there.
And Argus just has a 10 bomb upgrade, so we are still looking for that ether. So this is it. This is where Chenzi can make this one decision and quite possibly take the lead.
Yeah, and it's going to be a crippling change of... Oh, the book!
Fetch Quest City. Book of Medora found.
Will we find Vanilla Ether now?
Well, he's up on Death Mountain. You know, I'm sure he'll head right across and check that.
I certainly hope he does. Oh, I forgot that hagspam had not yet visited the old man. There is, of course, the other tablet to check.
Okay, here we go. Ether tablet has a bottle with blue goo. So we have found all 4 bottles in this seed.
Not the right... Fluting to the wrong location. I think he's going to go check the medallion, the Bombos medallion, or tablet.
And hagspam heading into Skull Woods to finish off Mothula. So
he didn't go to... He went up back to the mountain and then chose not to go to Hookshot Cave.
So this is going to be very interesting. Does the book lead to something or does it not? Also, Chenzi's going to be able to check the pedestal and determine whether he does have to go back to Swamp Palace to beat Argus.
Now, I can't recall what the 5-6 crystals were. Have we completed both of them at this point?
The other one is Misery Mire.
Oh, yes. So here we go.
So
the moment of truth for Chenzi. Ether Medallion.
Wow.
Just hagspam got on it in his head that this was a pet seed, and it is burning him severely at this point.
So that's it. Chenzi is in go mode, heading directly to Misery Mire. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200 rupees. And it's just a matter of finding that big key and taking out Vitreous.
Absolutely. And it's quite possible you can end up with a fantastic Mire seed where you find the big key early on. And it's a very quick, short check. Oh, hagspam gets wall mastered on his way to Mothula.
Yeah, it looks like Chenzi was trying to set up a bird toss, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it.
No, the seed is trying to tell you something, hagspam. It's saying, leave this dungeon. You don't want to be here. Fortunately, his mind is made up. He's going to blind pull this pedestal and be severely disappointed.
Yeah, the only thing that this could really give him that would be of any worth would be the silver arrows, but at this point he's far enough behind where that's not going to be enough of a difference.
Yeah, you have to imagine that Chenzi's going to be able to fly through this seed, potentially through this dungeon, and make a decent pace through Ganon's Tower. Kind of strangely enough, uses that key there. I don't know if that was intentional. And he hasn't gone to look at the key, the chest up that long bridge there either.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few different ways to route this dungeon, but typically you check that first check and get that, or the first two chests there and get that small key.
So now he went and hit the switch and stole the key. He's going to go look at this button chest here. Finds the big key, so he is off to the races.
Very nice. And hagspam warping to the light
Here
world.
We go. The rage bombs or swipes that we're going to see in a few moments as he pulls out something like a single green rupee.
All right, here we go. And he gets, for his trouble, 20 rupees.
Oh, it has to hurt knowing you spent all that time in Pendant Dungeons for no reason other than the progression items you picked up along the way. Has to hurt.
And yes, T-Cut, Chenzi is in go mode.
And not only that, it's questionable whether or not hagspam knows what he's missed at this point. Chenzi's going to go ahead and look at this chest. It is possible to make this hook shot, but decided against it afterwards. The only thing that you really could potentially find here is silver arrows, but there's also 22 possible chests in Ganon's Tower that you might find them in.
I've always loved that Ganon gives you that hint to where his silver arrows were.
And I do believe Chenzi does have a fairy in a bottle right now. Yes, we can see it right there. So even though his hearts look low, he does have some safety. Additionally, the Vitreous fight with the cape and butter sword is incredibly quick. Those eyes do not stand much of a chance against the swipes from the butter sword.
And hagspam found another piece of heart, got another heart container, so he's now at 19 of the 20 heart containers as he heads over to Shish Kebab to see what he's been holding on to this whole time.
20 more rupees. I feel like hagspam is seriously confused as to what he's missing. It's going to be heartbreaking, I think, when he realizes that that hookshot cave was the call to make, and he was right there.
Yeah, I honestly don't think he remembered to do it, and he still doesn't remember that he didn't do it.
Yeah, he's heading over to Kakariko Village. Maybe he's gonna think Bumper Cave. Maybe he hadn't checked that part yet. I know Chenzi did. And
Chenzi pumping.
Shot Vitreous.
Yeah. 8 arrows and the big eyeballs dead.
Well, I'm sure chat knows what time it is, but why don't you give them a description of what they should be doing right now?
Well, right now it's about 9:10 p.m. my time. You should be getting ready for bed. Oh, wait, no. You're talking about the Ganon's Tower Big Key game. Yeah, that's right. Get your Big Key location guesses in. There are 22 item locations in Ganon's Tower that the Big Key can be. And you have to guess, where is it going to be? Is it going to be the tile room? Is it going to be Bob's chest? Well, we don't know. But we're going to find out as Chenzi heads up to the Ganon's Tower to check it out.
Indeed, and can you give us a clue as to what our lucky winner will receive in the event that they do select the correct chest number?
I believe they are the winner of the contents of whatever the final chest is after Moldorm 2. Of course, depending on how ahead or behind he feels, he might not be checking that, so we may never know what the prize for this game is. You can also get on a leaderboard if you have donated, please correct me if I'm wrong, donated 250 bits or subscribed to any of the speed gaming channels.
That is absolutely correct. So, as Chenzi's about to head into the Dark World, get your guesses in. What number do you believe we'll find the big key chest in?
And this has been a pretty active chat. I've seen quite a few guesses, so we'll find out.
I think I'm going to say right now that we're looking at number 4.
You think this seed is going to reward them after all their hard work, huh?
I believe that that is the case.
All right. I always guess Bob's chest. I have no idea what number that is, and of course it all depends on the routing.
So we've got a few more seconds. And
all right, and Chenzi enters Ganon's Tower. Should probably make sure. Okay, good. The game is stopped now, so we'll see. Oh, and finding the red mail in the first chest. Wow.
yeah, and no key to continue on here means that he's going to go left side. It's not possible to check right side first. Hagspam paused there for a long moment, reflecting on things that he had and had not done. We see item check number 3 in Ganon's Tower is just 50 rupees on the torch. So we're heading to my personal guess, number 4, as Hagspam looks like he's heading up Darth Mountain.
So come on, Hagspam. I mean, he's got to be heading towards Hookshot Cave.
Oh, 4 was just 4 bombs. Or 3 bombs, I suppose. Then 5 was a key.
And
6 is the map. And 7 is the big key. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. And Chenzi is off to the races, heading up to the gauntlet.
And congratulations to, looks like, Link the 8th. Having the closest guest, his guess was number 8. So congratulations. You're going to be on the leaderboard, and you're going to win the contents of the final chest if we find out what that is. Meanwhile, Chenzi's sprite looking rather interesting. Neon green head and a super bright pink with that red mail on that sprite.
Yes, I believe that's a Metroided out Zero Suit Samus.
And hagspam picking up his book, and hopefully he follows that breadcrumb.
Gonna make his way over to the ether tablet. So with the gauntlet, it's just a quick short run. These Staffles being very elusive.
Yeah, they definitely have that magical ability to jump out of your way at exactly the right time. Yeah, the gauntlet is definitely, one of those things that can make or break a runner. A bunch of rooms, progressively getting more difficult. Throwing in moving platforms and ice and BMOs and everything else you really don't like to see.
Ooh, picking up a free fairy there off that last monster. And we hit Lemolus 2 with the butter sword. It's really just a swing and a hit.
Yeah, Chenzi in a really good spot. This is definitely his race to lose. And the only thing really left to find is the silver arrows. So it'll be interesting to see if he opens up any of the 4 final chests to see if those silver arrows are there.
Getting a nice first shot off with the cane there. Hagspam slashing with anger as he finds the ether medallion and is going to head into his remote. Oh, almost gets the one cycle in the second Wizrobe room.
Yeah, those Wizrobe rooms are a lot of fun, and that the first time you get that one cycle, gosh, it feels good.
Yeah, you feel like you're a champion player of Link to the Past. Chenzi with half magic and making quick use of the quick way through the torchlighting room there by using the fire rod. Very little concern at this point.
Yeah, 17 hearts, he's in a great position.
First I had to check, fishing for those silver arrows. Didn't find them in these last 2 chests. There's one more in the coming up, and then the final chest after Trolldorm 2.
And a piece of heart.
Trolldorm 2 trying to cause some mayhem, but unfortunately for it, goes down in a couple of hits when you have the butter sword.
And we have the final chest of the game with 3 bombs. So, where are the silver arrows? Hopefully Ganon will tell us.
They must be somewhere in the tower, I feel, at this point. We've checked so many locations with 2 of our runners. With Hagspam doing a full clear of pretty much every dungeon. Of course, not the Aga 1 climb, but we know that it can't be there as there's only keys in that particular dungeon.
Yeah, I think you're right. Every dungeon has been full cleared. I believe every spot on the overworld has been checked. So yeah, I think at this point, Ganon's Tower is really the only possibility. Chenzi getting a double on his first round of Aga 2 here.
And then potentially a triple. It looked like 2 might have landed simultaneously. There you go, a 3-cycle Aga 2.
Wow.
Fantastic.
He never even got touched. He still has full hearts and full magic. He's heading over to Ganon, and he is ready to go.
Yes, it is possible the Silveros could also have been vanilla. Pyramid Fairy never got checked, so if it says in the Dark World, that might be one of the few places left that they could have been.
Wow, what a rough seed this has been, that's for sure. Now we're getting a little bit of our biology lesson for today from Ganon. Of course, since Chenzi has the Butter Sword, Ganon now only requiring 6 hits in the first 2 cycles, so this is going to be a pretty quick fight. Meanwhile,
it's just a matter of hitting him before he teleports away.
Meanwhile, hagspam going through the dark rooms in Misery Mire, so not too far away from entering Ganon's Tower himself.
And here we'll get our tip, our hint. They were in Misery Mire! Ooh!
That's right, we found the big key so quickly, there was no reason to check anything else.
Unfortunately, Chenzi didn't get the torch glitch. So that's gonna slow things down in this Silverless attempt. I'm having some difficult time trying to powder up that anti-fairy there right before the Vitreous fight. Unfortunately, did not get it. He does have blue goo that he can make use of to replenish his magic and health.
And Chenzi having a little bit of trouble with the Silverless strategies.
Very conservative with his magic power at this point, and it's slowing down his ability to light the torches. So it is making it so he's only able to, at the most, get a single swipe every cycle, but slow and steady sometimes wins the race. He's getting low on health, down to 2 hearts. He only has a blue goo and a fairy. Might try to use the fairy first in order to be as efficient with his restoration items, but instead goes ahead and activates that blue goo. Unfortunately, on my end, we're dropping a few too many frames for me to see if he's getting that many hits.
Yeah, and the only other way you could tell is if we had the sound from his stream. That was definitely a hit there.
Chenzi just can't catch a break with keeping these torches lit when he has good positioning on Ganon. So for those of you who've never done this, Silverless Ganon, you do have to get a sword spin. Doesn't matter what level of sword you have, as in the frame that he's starting to teleport away. One of the ways you can help kind of make this a little bit easier is when you're preparing to do the sword spin, make sure you're facing either to the side or away from Ganon. If your sword is pointing towards Ganon, you tend to poke him in the face instead of getting the spin, and that can knock you out of being able to. Ooh, almost falls off. Oh, and takes a dive.
Oh man. Now he does not have the safety bottle. And you know, with where he is, he could probably go to Misery Mire and get those silvers and come back and still have plenty of time. But I don't know that he'll do that.
A very big risk. He might go grab this fairy here. Maybe he'll flute away to go grab potions. No, he's just going to grab that fairy and head back in. He has another fairy in his bottle, but half of his magic only it's a risky prospect, but he must know at this point that the race is still on, and he wants to win. So we can see that he switched to the hook shot here. He's gonna plan to use hook shots in vulnerability frames to avoid the fire bats in phase 2, instead of wasting magic on the cane or the cape. He's got to be very careful. Panic might set in. You know, like, yeah, right. Oh no, my opponent is going to catch me if I don't win right now, which can cause you to make plays that are less than ideal. Take too much damage from time to time.
Yeah, he has 2 fairies, so he doesn't have to worry too much about deaths, but running out of magic power is going to definitely hurt him. Especially if you don't get that torch glitch.
I feel like at this point he must have the... Yes, he does have the phase 3. He's going to make use of that fairy in a bottle right now. He's kind of trapped inside the fire circle, which is actually beneficial there. He wasn't in any danger of taking damage. He's gonna want to switch really quickly over to the fire rod or the torch to get this torch glitch. It really makes a significant difficulty change. And he missed it again. Oh. I think you got that one.
Yeah, that was definitely a hit.
And there was one as well.
So that's 2 so far? And I believe it's 12 hits regardless of red or yellow sword, right?
I believe that is the case, yes. It's been a while since I've had Butter Sword Silverless myself. I think he got one there as well. And they definitely got one there too, so he's up to 4, I think.
And he's getting really low on magic. I don't know if he has enough. And the worst part is, even though you can see Ganon, he only takes damage if both torches are lit.
Now, fortunately, using the lantern really... Oh, he got a hit there as well? I think he missed on that second one. The lantern really just barely takes a trickle of magic power during when you have half magic. But we're down to a single heart again.
I think he still has one more fairy. Meanwhile, hagspam is just finishing up with Landmo 2, so he is no longer nearly as far behind as he was.
Another hit for Chenzi. And he takes another death here due to the fire bats. And it turns out he does not have another fairy at this point. So his course of action here is going to be, is he going to go and grab more potions?
He's going to need...
really just a mirror and a flute. It's not a bad decision. He has plenty of rupees.
Yeah, Yeah, I think he was hoping to get a magic refill from one of those enemies, but yeah, he's now mirroring away and heading over to get some bottles filled up.
He has to be feeling the anxiety here, thinking that his opponent has to be close. He's going to go ahead and buy a green potion and release the bee. Oh, he's just drinking the green potion. Then he'll probably purchase a couple of blues along the way. Load it up as best as possible. Now, if you want to be really fancy, what you can do here is save and quit, so that in the event that you die and have used all of your magic potions, you can just do a hard reset and reload the game and have them again.
And hagspam making quick work of Trolldorm 2. I believe he skipped the chests on the floor just before, but he does pick up his 3-bomb pack from the final chest. And he's only now, a couple screens away from Aga 2, and he's really, really caught up.
We have
despite
a race again.
Yeah, absolutely. And I gotta wonder, did hagspam skip those chests because he knows that he's really good at silverless?
Gets a double.
Just barely missing on those other 2 fireballs. And hagspam with a 4 cycle, taking down Aga 2 in short order. And all of a sudden, we've gone from a multi-minute race down to really just going to be probably under a minute difference between these 2 runners now.
Yeah, what we have here is really going to come down to silverless execution, I believe. If Chenzi can pick it up here and make this silverless play happen, he's going to be in a very good spot. He's really going to want to make sure he gets this torch glitch. He's missed it 2 out of the 3 attempts so far. Again, just unfortunately, not hitting that torch at the correct angle really does make this a more difficult fight.
He might have a little easier time this time, though, with full bottles of blue potion. He doesn't have to worry about using the lamp. He can just spam that fire rod.
Gets a double there, which is excellent.
Oh my gosh, this is so close. Hagspam now in stage 3 of Ganon, getting 2 out of the 4 hits. Meanwhile, Chenzi, I have no idea how many silverless hits he's gotten on Ganon so far.
I believe we're at 3 or 4. It's hard to tell again because of the invulnerability frames, are like the flashing on Ganon. Looks like hagspam got the torch glitch, which is a significant advantage for him here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is as close as it could possibly be between these 2 runners, considering how back and forth they were throughout the whole course of the race. It's really coming down to the wire. Now, we do know that Chenzi definitely has more. He's got more bottles filled with blue goo. Plenty to go around at this point, but is suffering from the fact that he needs to do double torches.
And hagspam refilling his bottles, getting a little low on health. And I have no idea how many hits he's gotten. This is so freaking close.
Oh, another good hit for Chenzi. Hagspam misses that last one.
And the next one. Yes.
Another hit.
Silver.
He's getting a little bit warmed up to this prospect as hagspam responds with another hit on his health.
Oh my gosh.
This is insanely close, ladies and gentlemen. They are within
hagspam gets another one. And misses the second one in that round. Okay, here we are. We've got to be getting close to that 12th.
Hagspam lands another spiral.
And Chenzi has to relight the torches again.
Gets a hit, though, immediately following that. Hagspam lands another one in response. It's literally going back and forth here, ladies and gentlemen. And Chenzi finally lands the final hit. Hagspam grabs another one. And a follow-up hit as well. Oh.
And Chenzi Koden just
there
waiting
it is.
for the music.
Within a few mere seconds of each other.
Oh my gosh.
These two runners have finally completed this seed, and it was a difficult and challenging seed, ladies and gentlemen. GG to Chenzi Koden for the victory here with an official Speed Racing TV time of 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 16 seconds. And as well, a big GG to Hagspam for coming back and getting his official time of 2 hours, 30 minutes, and 33 seconds.
Oh
Mere
my gosh.
seconds separating these two runners. Wow.
So what was the actual difference in time according to Speed Gaming TV?
That is 17 seconds.
So in a race that took us all different directions, completely different dungeons completed, items missed, items forgotten, 2.5 hours long, it came down to a 17-second difference in time. I noticed that we're already joined by Chenzi Koden. GG, and what a race.
I have no words.
Now, you struggled there at the end. Obviously, Silverless Ganon, a difficult fight. All 3 attempts there without the benefit of the torch glitch. Is that something that you have been practicing, the Silverless, or is that a I know how to do it and I hope I don't ever have to kind of situation for you?
With the torch glitch and with Silverless, I actually spent some time like legitimately practicing, and it just wasn't there. I don't know what the problem was. I mean, I was spamming the lamp, and I guess I was just off by like a pixel, which is sometimes all it takes.
Yes, it looked as if you were just slightly, like almost like you were too close to the torch and your lighter was landing just beyond it, and for whatever reason the game was like, nope, you're not lighting the torch. Must have been frustrating.
Oh, you have no idea, especially when I died the second time. I thought for sure that was it. I thought that was the race. I thought I was done.
Well, out of everything, and of course, how about that ether medallion? There was one major mistake that your opponent made that you did not, and that is after Hagspam completed Turtle Rock, he did not go directly into Hookshot Cave, whereas you did. So you had that book and therefore the ether medallion quite a bit sooner.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, I believe Hagspam seemed to be feeling that it was going to be a pedestal seed. So he went back and returned to Swamp Palace and then finished off Skullwoods. Checked a couple of mirror-only locations along the way, but pulled the blind pull on the pedestal and was pretty disappointed by what he found.
Yeah, you really had us on the edge of our seats because you went into the Ganon fight probably with a good 3 or 4 minute lead, and having it dwindled down to just 17 seconds due to a tough Silverless fight, which is, not fun to do no matter what. I applaud you for sticking with it and just pulling out a absolutely great race on a very, very difficult seed.
Yeah, trying to find just any progression at some points was just like pulling teeth. I'm kind of, well, the Ganon fight obviously took precedence, but I was really frustrated at the Ice Palace my first time in.
Yes, you did have a rough time through that first bomb jump where you ended up almost getting down to like half a heart. It's had to kind of bail out and go try some other things. What were your thoughts there? Were you just thinking, it's not here, or?
Part of it was a lack of safety. I didn't have any potions or anything like that, and I had forgotten that I could just go back into the last room and hit the switch and keep going.
Yes, and it turns out that there was value in that dungeon, just as there was value in pretty much every dungeon at some point. Of course, Ice Palace being a crystal in this seed was necessary no matter what.
Yeah, it was quite something. We actually did end up getting also hagspam ended up completing both Swamp Palace and Skull Woods, and we got a blind pedestal pull, which I believe was just $20. So it was one of those things where it was getting pretty close to that point where it was looking like that Ether Medallion was going to be on the pedestal seed. As you were going into Ganon's Tower, how did you feel? Did you feel like you were ahead, behind, or not quite sure?
Part of the optimistic part of me wanted to say I wasn't sure, but going into Turtle Rock, I knew I was behind. In the back of my mind, I knew, mostly because of Ice Palace, honestly, because I had gone into the first time, failed completely, got out, went back in and found the mirror, which obviously was the next progression item.
Well, one of the questions I like to ask also is, one of the new features of the standard randomized swords in V29 is the creation of the Uncle as our resident weapons dealer of Hyrule. How do you like that? And of course, how did you like getting the hammer right off the bat?
The hammer is my second favorite starting weapon, my favorite being the bow.
Yes, I believe that's a common thread amongst most runners, the bow being... It always feels like bow is one of the last items you find in a normal seed. So I can imagine why you'd like it.
Yeah, and honestly, having the hammer so early and dipping into Eastern Palace and finding the ice rod, I mean, there's just so many ways the seed could have gone.
So as we're getting close to the end of the credits here, do you have any further thoughts on the seed as a whole, on the tournament, on Randomizer in general? Anything else you want to say?
I joined this tournament mostly because I wanted to push myself. I wanted to give myself a reason to try harder. And I came into this tournament with one objective. I want to win once. And I did that. And now my objective was to win twice. And now I've done that. So it's just a matter of, keep practicing, keep learning the routes, keep learning the strategies, and just that drive to keep getting better, I think, is my biggest motivation for staying in this tournament.
Well, try hard you did, and congratulations on the win and staying alive. And unfortunately, hagspam with his third loss is likely eliminated from getting into the bracket stages. It's about time we close things up. So if you're still here listening and you like what you see, be sure to give both hagspam and Chenzi Koden a follow on Twitch. Once again, they worked really hard, especially on this seed, to entertain us, and they put on an absolutely stunning match, finishing just 17 seconds apart from each other. Also, thanks very much to my co-commentator Crowzone80 and for Hitaka for being our tracker tonight and making sure that we were able to keep track of who had what. So, Crowzone, did you want to say anything else before we wrap things up?
No, just like to again, echo the sentiment that please, by all means, give our runners a follow. They've done a great job, and as well Hataka, who keeps all of these little icons lit up at the bottom for you. So I'm sure you'd appreciate a follow as well. And of course, my co-commentator Sco Davis here, he deserves one as well. And thanks everyone for making this tournament the fun and exciting form of entertainment that it is. Without you viewers, we wouldn't be able to put on a show like this. So a big thanks to you as well.
Yeah, I want to say thank you to everyone also, and GG to hagspam. And I know I haven't said it yet, and I wanted to make sure to, congratulate him. This was an amazing race, and I just thank you to everyone.
Absolutely, and if you've seen the video tonight and you're kind of curious about how to get involved in this, the website for the Link to the Past randomizer is vt.alttp.run. Not only can you use that site to generate seeds of your own, in addition to being able to choose a lot of different play modes and everything, you can also join the Link to the Past randomizer Discord, where there's a whole bunch of really friendly people who will help you get involved, and it's really a great community and a great thing to learn if you like Zelda. And of course, be sure to check out the various channels. There's plenty of Link to the Past randomizer, as we have something like 256 games happening every single week right now during the Swiss stage. Be sure to check out and follow and subscribe to Speed Gaming channels 1 through 6, I believe, and also Link to the Past randomizer, ALTTP randomizer, channels 1 through 4. Plenty of action, and always something going on if you want to watch some Zelda. So for everyone here, thanks for joining us. Thanks again to Chenzi and hagspam for putting on a great match, and have a wonderful evening, everybody.
Good night, everyone.